Hello, interweb. Today I'm going to talk about something that's very fascinating in OSR games. Um, it's the concept of hirelings. Interesting. What can you do with them? How much do they cost? Why would you get one, right? So to start off with, if you go to drduic.com, if you click on the icosahedron, looks like an atom, and you scroll down, you can get all this information that's here for your viewing pleasures. So I'm going to go to my house rule section. I'm going to go to hirelings and morale. If you click on this guy, you're going to see this section, and you can scroll down and scroll through here to see things. I'm just going to explain the concept of why you would do this and why would you even care, right? So I create a lot of hirelings, and I use them if you're doing like an individual solo play, like especially you have one player and they want to play, and you're like a DM, and you're like, okay, let's play, but how would you cover all your stuff, right? I let them kind of go in and actually create um, a bunch of 3x5 note cards, and I can show you where that is in a little bit, of each guy. I really do make it straightforward, 3d6 strats, straight down, roll for each one of them, but only one can be switched out for the other. Say if you want a bunch of fighters and you want to go 3 of them and you roll and you get the highest number, you become strength, you switch out that other one, and that's just your play. Give them a name. That I do not give them a constitutional bonus, and if you look at character creation, I explain how I do that, but for first level fighter, I just kind of leave what it is, and but they do get maximum hit points. And sometimes you want this as a, let's say you want to have a character play as a magic user, and then you have a thief, you have 2 people playing, and no one wants to be a fighter. You want to hire a couple of fighters. You have to have a couple of guys in the front line. Um, but how do you kind of put it together in a way that's kind of simple? And how do you check the morale of these guys? That's kind of what this video is pretty much about. So let's say I grab these are stat scores for the guy, and he's about ready to play. So this is actually the Swords and Wizardry book, right? If the charisma score determines the number of hirelings and whether they will pass a morale check. So you can tell the higher your charisma, the more your influential leader, and the more hirelings you can have. So according to the table, a character will have up to 5 hirelings. Why? Because your charisma is 13. If your charisma is 13, 15, you have 5 hirelings, right? Hirelings must have armor, weapons, and all the gear purchased for them, because they're just peasants that you kind of slap armor on and say, go get to work. So standard cost, 1 gold piece per day is paid for a hireling, right? I say a funeral cost should be a minimum of 50 gold pieces given to parents, siblings, or children, or spouse as a restitution for their loss. And the 2 most common ones that I have in play is the torchbearer, right? And obviously the adventurer that's going to go down into the actual dungeon, right? So these guys are pretty cheap, but they don't really have much. You just kind of, but they could get killed. Therefore, you want to make sure that you realize that these guys still have to have some kind of restitution paid. The other one is the man at arms. And he cost 50 gold pieces to get up for just 1 week. And he's actually cheap every week after, but that's a startup cost. For example, for 1 day, you need 1 gold piece per day, right? So we're looking at this guy, 7 gold pieces. Got to feed this dude. You have to have a tent. Water skin, leather armor, that's minimum. Shield, spear. I get a sling with pouches and stones. This is a kind of minimum range weapon you would actually give him. You want to be able to fight underneath all situations. If you want to give him a bow and pay more for it, be my guess. But I think 51 gold pieces is pretty much the minimum you can actually put out there, right? Once again, these are the cheaper weapons. Spear, that's super cheap, right? Hand axe, super cheap. These are the cost of buying these things on the Swords and Wizardry book, right? So morale check, you roll 1d20 below your charisma score. So I do it just as if you're doing any kind of skill check, right? So this gets subtracted from your roll. The DM keeps track of this stuff, okay? Are you feeding these guys and paying them well? Then you get a -1 to your roll each time you do a morale check, right? So this is all going to increase your chances of having this thing passed. Did they have a campsite? You have a campsite? Did they get an individual tent? You're making them sleep out in the stars, you know what I'm saying? Did they see you basically pay for restitution whenever other people were slaughtered? Let's say a torchbearer dies, his name was Steve. Did you go back to town and give 50 gold pieces to his mom? When the guy see it and they say, well, this is a good guy I'm working for, that's going to increase your chance. If you have a group of 4 or more hirelings, they tend to work as a cohort, And when you do that, they seem like more cohesive. That's a bonus, right? If you get a sergeant at arms, that's going to be someone that's going to be leading them. Yet the quadruple the wages, the rest of it to be the same. The quadruple the wages, sometimes you get them better armor and stuff. If your 4 levels are higher above the hireling, that gets a bonus. And if they have a law alignment, that means they actually follow something. If they're neutral, they tend to say, well, I'm kind of out of the picture. These are things you can use as morale checks. The last one is these things would decrease your chance. All right, so it's going to be added to your roll. It's going to put you over your roll of 1d20. Are you outnumbered at a battlefield? Oh, we have 30 orcs chasing us, and I have 3 hirelings. Why aren't they fighting? Because they're going to run. Duh. You know what I'm saying? These are things to take into consideration. Is there a lack of light source? They can't see. You don't have a torchbearer, and you got to have these guys fight in the dark. Oh, I don't think they're going to want to, right? Underfed, underpaid. New guys, recently hired guys, it's not going to help you, right? So this will be something to keep in consideration, right? If they're with you a while, then they're going to fight longer for you. This is interesting, forced to take point. Suppose you have a fighter, a magic user, and a thief. You hire, the magic user hires 2 more fighters. Every time they come into a new room, you say, well, send your hireling there. Why is that guy going to go? What's his invested interest? He's just there to protect the magic user. So if you keep forcing him to open a door, that's going to work against your morale, because he's going to think it's just, you're just using me to get killed so you don't have to get killed. You got to say they're a little smarter than that, right? If it has neutral alignment, then basically they have no, I say, a system of law in a sense. Might be a moral choices that won't make in this thing. If you run them till they don't rest, if they see death of other PC hirelings, or seeing characters act immorally. If you start doing the murder hobo thing and goblins, you slaughter things left and right, these things all work against you. So this is a way you can do this, in your game, and you can keep track of things on a little notepad and make note how the morale of the guy's going to play out. And it should be flexible. You can take numbers off and then put numbers back on. And it makes it a little more fun in gameplay. Like I said, it's advisable if you have a magic user with an AC of 10, and if he gets to get a fighter for a henchman, he could stand in front of him and be defensive in battle. Of course, it gets kind of messy if you get more than 3 or 4 orcs going at you, then obviously he'll get flanked, but it's nice that this is an option to have hirelings. And with that, Internet, I want you to have a great day.